want to do. So what is 3D Experience Works? And for a lot of people, this is new terminology. You may have been hearing it, not quite know what it is, what it does. It comes from 3D Experience. And 3D Experience is something that has existed in the Dassault Systems environment for a very long time. It's a grouping of applications from their best known solutions, such as CATIA, Innovia, Simulia. And for customers who use those types of products, they have for a long time worked on a platform that enables them to do a whole lot more. But what we've been trying to do at Dassault Systems is how to model that, but for the SolidWorks community, which is a little different. And it has a different size of enterprise, often has a different budget for things, and it has been rebranded and remade to look and feel for the SolidWorks community. Has been named 3D Experience Works. So SolidWorks, 3D Experience Works. And with that, we've brought solutions along with it that you as a SolidWorks user can go access. In terms of Simulia Works, Stilmia Works, Synovia Works, and throughout the following sessions that we're going to be doing, the next two that have already been announced and others that we're planning for the future, we'll be diving into these different solutions and showing you what they look like. But what we want to do today is show you what the platform looks like. So what is it as a platform? And keep in mind, this is a business platform to connect more than just your CAD team to the environment, but connect your entire workplace if that's what you choose to do. Obviously, everyone has a starting place. You know, where do we want to start with this? But you'll see the vision of how this can expand to a whole lot more and regroup your entire company if that's what you choose to do. So I see this as what we're going to do today. As I was thinking this morning of already thinking of the pizza I'm going to have tonight, I was thinking this is the crust. This is the crust that holds it all together, and we're going to show you what the crust has to offer. And then as we go, you know, not this time, but other sessions, we're going to show you all the ingredients that you can put on this pizza. And as I alluded to, the difference between the traditional Dassault 3D Experience platform and the applications they have access to, we're bringing a lot of those to the SolidWorks world so that, you know, we don't have to worry about paying for seafood and figs and all these exotic things on our pizza. We can have our pepperoni, our mushroom, our peppers, because that's what we want on our pizza, and that's not just what our budget can afford, but that's what we actually want on our pizza because that's what we love. So we're going to show you how this all comes together, and Michelle's going to have another analogy than the pizza to share with you. But as we're going through this, you're going to see that there's different aspects to this, and I ask you to think about, as you're going through this, you're going to certainly think, I know, I use this, and this tool to do exactly these types of things. And I'll ask you, they'll challenge you to list how many of those you had to name and how many of them are different, right? And how many of them connect or do not connect together as you're thinking about this. And how many of those tools that you thought of actually had design of a product in mind to help your company along as you're using them. So it's great that a tool offers a functionality, but that if the intent of that functionality doesn't match the overall intent of your company, then it may miss the boat and it may not grow with you as you want throughout the year. So it may be fine for right now, but you may need more as you grow, and you may want to pick something that's going to help do that. So the 3D Experience platform offers apps, services, and content. It attacks a number of different aspects, so connecting everyone to the innovation process, not just the reserving that to the design group, but making it wider in the company. Collaborating and sharing ideas together, which Michelle will show you. How to store and share files very securely. Obviously, security is always at the forefront. And data-driven decisions, not just on I think we should and maybe we should. So remember that the 3D Experience platform is a cloud-based application, and therefore in the cloud, on the internet, accessible anytime, anywhere from any platform, so any device And it's flexibility, it's power. But with that, obviously, comes some of these concerns of security and things, and we'll address those as we go through this today. So remember, today we're presenting the crust of the pizza, and we're going to talk about some of the things that are on there that you can put on, but there's a whole lot more, and that you'll see as Michelle will present, and hopefully you'll follow us in this journey of exploring what the 3D Experience platform has to offer, and how your company can grow with it. So as you're thinking of this, two other things to think about. So one, I asked you to think about all the tools that you know and think of that do all these things. The other thing is the emails and meetings, and how these could possibly be improved. And Michelle will touch on that in the presentation, but how these could be improved upon or replaced by some of these things to, again, make your company and your processes faster, and get you to innovation faster, get you where you want to be a whole lot faster than you may be today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. For those who don't know him, Michelle's been with Solidworks for 15 years. He has seen all of its colors, and we've been using the platform for a good while internally at the company. We're having fun with it. Michelle's had to use it with a team to do a competition design, actually, at World recently. So he's had experience playing with it, working with it, and he's going to share some information with you, and I'll come back at the end to wrap it up. Over to you, Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you, and welcome, everyone. Yeah, so today we're going to explore the 3D Experience platform. Now, Joelle sees the platform as a pizza, which actually made me hungry. It's 11:10, but I see the platform a little bit differently. We have to see the platform as apps, right? So everyone is familiar with with an iPhone or maybe an Android phone. When you need something, you go to the App Store and you gather or take the apps you need for what you want. So for example, I like hiking. I don't hike a whole lot these days, but normally I do, and I got apps to help me track where I am, so I can have maps offline, for example. So that's me. And this is how the platform is built, right? The platform is where all these apps are, and today what we're going to talk about is a set of apps, which is part of what we call the collaborative business innovator role. And that's really like the stepping stone into everything else on the platform, like the core apps that everyone uses, everyone needs on the 3D Experience platform. Now, to go a little bit in details, there's a lot of apps, but I'm going to focus on these four apps. We're going to talk about dashboards, swim communities, the 3D Drive, and 3D Play. So if you were on my webinar last Friday, you already got a glimpse of 3D Drive and 3D Play. We're going to talk more about that today. But we're going to start with dashboards. So basically, what is a dashboard? A dashboard is where you centralize all your business information. So you have a dashboard where you can put and lay out everything you need to see what's going on in the business. Now, dashboards are customizable. You create the dashboards you want, the way you want them, with the information you want in them. So we're actually going to go ahead and create our own dashboard live today, which is going to gather some analytics data. We're going to put in there some communities, and I'm going to talk more about communities a bit later, but we're going to gather different information from different sources into that dashboard. So let's just jump into it. And to do that, I'm going to be using a web browser. Now, the 3D Experience platform is a web-based platform. So what you need to access it is just a browser. So it's device independent. You just need internet connection. You launch your browser, you log in. So obviously this is secured. You need a login to go in. So this is the first dashboard that is created for you when you start. Let's go ahead and create a new dashboard. It's going to be an empty dashboard, and I'm simply going to call it Resume. This is one of our customers, and I'm going to be using their data sets or some of their data sets to kind of show. Resume bolter project and 77D. That's the design we're going to be working on. So I'm going to say create. So as you can see now, that's a empty dashboard. Now, what do I want to show in this dashboard? Couple things I like to have. First of all, I just want to have a web page reader that's going to give me the website. So I'm going to add that to my dashboard. So here I got the actual website of the company embedded into this dashboard. The other things, everyone has to take notes. So I'm gonna create just a little notepad here in my dashboard and simply say this is my notepad. So you can start taking all these notes here right inside of this dashboard. So quickly, I've got a tab. This is the company's website just to see what they're designing. What we're going to be working on is one of their row bolters. So we're going to be working on some of these machines, using some of these data set as we go along. So that's my first tab on this dashboard. Now the second tab I want to use to gather information, metrics, sales, margins, where am I selling these machines? So I'm going to be using a metrics reader. Actually, I'm going to be creating quite a few. I'm going to be creating 4 of them. And in this metrics reader, I want to gather data from an Excel spreadsheet. So in my 3D drive, and I'm going to talk a bit more about 3D drive as we go along here. So I got a folder called resume, and in that folder I got key figures, and you'll notice these are Excel spreadsheets or CSV files. So the first one I want to use is a market presence, just to kind of highlight or show where are my customers, where am I selling. I'm going to complement this dashboard or graphic with maybe a header. So I want to use a quick image for my header. So I'm going to say, yeah, let's take this little map image. I'm going to put my initials here, and I'm simply going to hit finish. And very quickly, I've created this graphics on my dashboard. Now all of these graphics can be updated regularly as these Excel spreadsheets are, right? So these can be living graphics. I'm going to add another metrics reader. I'm going to put it maybe underneath this one here. And in this one, I want to see the margins, right? The profit margins. I'm going to simply drag and drop this file. Again, I can preview the graphics, see if it updates correctly. I'll say yes to that. Similar to what I've done before, I'm going to add an image for the header. So I'm going to grab this image here. Let's maybe change the color of this graph. So I simply select the color here and change the color of this. Again, put my initials down and say finish. And now on the same dashboard tab, I now have this graphic. I can resize them. I can always maximize them. And you see here, this is data that I can actually probe inside. And this data, again, is going to be living. If that Excel spreadsheet is updated, this graph is going to be updated as well. So let's add 2 more. So I'm going to simply drag and drop these 2 metrics reader. And this one here, I'm going to gather this operative margin, hit next. I'm going to drop those fairly quick. You've seen me do some of those already. Maybe change the color. Let's put it in green, put my initials down, and say finish. And the last one I'm going to do down here, again, is going to be my revenue generated. Update my preview for the graphics. as it's actually loading data right now. It's kind of capturing all of that. I can actually close this so we can maximize our screen, hit next, then figure out if I want this to be updated automatically or manually. Let's put another color. Let's go with blue and put my initials down here, hit finish. And there we go. So we all have these graphs here. I can resize them, or if you want to do that quick, you can simply say, I want to fit in my page. So very quickly, I've got all this data that is showing on my graph, and I can expand the data like you saw me do with some of these graphs. What is nice as well is that if I want to change the display, I can do it live, right? So I can change the way these are displayed. I like these graphs, so I'm gonna stick with that. But very quickly, I've got all this information shown on my dashboard that I can communicate and share with my team as I see fit, right? So I can expand any of those graphs, kind of go in details, and I can even save those as images to put in other documents. So for example, I could actually publish or export it out as an image, or actually publish it to a swim community. Now, I haven't talked about communities yet. I'm going to do that just next. So really quickly, dashboards. Really, dashboards, what they are is a way to just gather all the information into one place. And dashboards are fully customizable. So depending on what you do, what project you're working on, what's your role, you're gonna create your own dashboards the way you see them fit. And once you've created dashboards, you can also share dashboards with others inside the company or even outside the company, so they can be a reader, they can just look at the dashboard, or you can just create one and call it a template and share it with someone else so they get a starting point of their own dashboard, and then they can go ahead and customize it. But really, dashboards are just fully customizable, and you just gather the information you want on that dashboard. That's the front door of going into the platform. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about 3D Swim quite a bit, because there's a lot of things in 3D Swim. 3D Swim is basically communities and the ability to participate in common areas of interest. Now, you can create those communities based on projects. You can create them based on groups of individuals in the company. You can even create company-wide communities. So for example, here at Dassault, we have a community for the social events, social club. Not a lot going on these days, but we do have a community for that. We have community for HR. We have, so for everyone in the company. But then I have a community that I've created for my team of 6 that we work together closely day in and day out. So depending on what you do, you can create those communities and invite people to those communities. So let's go back to our dashboard. We're going to create a new tab, add the community to that tab, and then we're going to see what is inside of those communities, what we can do inside of the communities. Quite honestly, if there's one thing you want to remember about this webinar is communities. And try to figure out how much emails you would typically do, or how many tools you would typically use to communicate all the information you're going to see in the next maybe 10 to 15 minutes while I talk about communities. So let's go back into our dashboard, and like I said, I'm going to create a new tab here. I'm going to drop my community, whoops, sorry, mispicked. I'm going to drop my swim community here and expand that. And you'll notice here, I already created a community called Resume Bolter. I created this ahead of time so I could populate it. But let's explore what is inside this community. So first of all, we're going to talk about posts. Posts are simply information I'm sharing with the team. So for example, you see here I got some fictitious team members. By the way, communities, you basically invite people to your community. So if I take a look in my community, currently it's a small community. I've got, a couple users. I got Joe, I got Don, but Joelle, she's for real, but she's in my community. And basically everything I share, every one of these members can come in, depending on what type of role they have. They can comment, they can see. By the way, here's one of the posts that Don, put in earlier, that he's saying, hey, we've validated the crush test for the roof of our bolters. Now, these posts can be complemented with many different things. So we've actually have videos of those tests, of those simulation results that we can see here, like simulating a rock falling on the roof to protect the operator. So here's an example, and I see that Joelle actually commented on this on this post early on, and I can go in and like even the post or like the comment. Now, if I scroll down, here's a post I put in a bit earlier. So we talked about information. So here I'm talking about interactive instruction manuals. Now, it could be images and videos, but you can even go ahead and complement these posts with 3D data. So here I use Solidworks Composer to create a instruction on how to replace the cylinders. So you see here, this is a step-by-step instruction, but I can navigate this model. This is actually 3D content. I can navigate, I can zoom and pan around, and I don't need any plugins. I don't need any software other than my browser, which is Chrome for the moment, but you could be using Firefox. If you're on a iOS device, you'd be likely using Safari, but everything's there. I got another post here that I've created. So we talked about images, videos, even 3D content. So here I got a marketing brochure that I want to share with prospects. Well, typically this is a PDF. And yes, this is a PDF file that I can, again, view directly in my browser. So I can navigate all of these pages of my PDF file. And what's great is that if I want to, make a comment, and I think this is actually something that Joelle might actually appreciate quite a bit. So I'm going to put in a comment and say at Joelle, and she's going to pop up in the box here, and I can say, hey, you might like this. So she's going to receive a notification because I tagged her in this conversation. Again, normally, again, how would you have communicated that? You would have sent an email to probably, 10, 20 different person. How do you make sure that actually one of these persons actually reads the email? It doesn't get buried in the email list. And I actually tagged Joelle to read this. Here's another post that Don created, just a simple image. So using posts is a great way to just share information, but what's great about posts is that you can have threaded discussions in those posts, right? So you can see here, I got a threaded discussion about the marketing brochure. So I got Don, says, that's great. What did you use? Oh, by the way, you see the notification on top right. Joelle commented on actually one of these notifications, but I can actually see the notification and all of this information captured here in my post. So there's a lot of things you can do with posts. Now, posts is not the only thing in community. It's a big part, but it's not the only thing. Now, you see in this community, there's no real structure to anything in this community. So what we can do is actually create Wiki Pages for a more formal, structured information. So Wiki Pages are great for if you want to have, guidelines for new hires, you can put them there. You want to create your own knowledge base. Here I create a knowledge base with a couple links. I got a database for terminology, useful SolidWorks training that, again, with hyperlinks. So if I click one of these, it's actually getting me directly to my solidworks.com training. So this is great to just have structured information gathered in those wiki. I see a lot of companies using like internal standards when they design. This is just a great place to keep those. Again, ask yourself, how would you gather this information if it's not in a community? We're gonna also talk about questions and ideas. So I have a question. I want to simply ask questions to the team. Here I got Don that's asking a question about he's noticing that his customers are expressing that a lot of dirt is getting stuck on the cylinder guard. He's asking, have anyone else on the team seen that? I actually replied and said, yes, I've got the same feedback. In some cases, it's actually causing breakdowns. So a simple question. Here, I actually asked the question, hey, I think we should run a simulation study on the knuckle kit that we see on the bottom right here. But I'm not sure about what's the load of those cylinders. And then Don simply answered, yeah, the load is basically 180,000 newtons for each of those cylinders. And I can validate this answer and keep it as a good information. Again, how would you typically do that? You would send an email to 20 different people. Half of them would probably never see it because it's buried in their inbox. Now, what's great about both posts and ideas and questions, I should say, is that you can also either create new ideas or convert posts and questions into new ideas. What is an idea? An idea is simply, leveraging the knowledge and the ideas of the team and put them into something that is captured. So here I got the idea of, a lot of customers would like to see 3D instructions for maintenance. So I put in the idea, and you see here there's actually a idea funnel or pipeline. So a new idea starts new. You can move it to a concept. This idea is actually mature because, as you've seen earlier, we've already created some content. So this idea was created maybe weeks, months ago, and everyone can comment on this idea. Now I've got another idea, and we can see that in the idea funnel. So when we start, or idea pipeline, when we start having many ideas, we can see where they are. So that's the idea about that's actually a new idea. We're going to come to that. That's my idea about doing 3D interactive instruction. So here's an idea that's a new one. I can select it and say, okay, what's this idea? Well, actually, this idea came from the earlier question about those guards, gathering dirt and rocks. And Joe had the idea of, hey, maybe we could add a cutout in the guard so that it would kind of empty itself, fall through. And Joe went in and said, hey, Michelle, asked me, can you do a quick concept? So he tagged me. And so I got a notification I was tagged, and then he asked me, can you do a quick concept? I said, yeah, I'm on it. And when I'm done, I can say, actually comment here and say, here is the cost report, because Joe was asking me to do a quick cost analysis. So here I'm going to say I want to attach my PDF file for the cost report. So I can go in. If it's already in my community, I can repurpose it. If it's not, I can actually upload that cost report. So let me just go in here where I saved it. So that's my cost report. I say open. Now it's being uploaded to my community, to this idea. I'm gonna say send. So now this cost report is embedded in this idea. And if anyone wants to actually see it, well, we can see what's the cost breakdown for this new concept I just created. So maybe Joe could decide, hey, let's move this idea to concept and see if it makes plan, if it's approved by manufacturing or whatever. So I can move this idea to another stage going forward. So ideas, that's the ideas is also great to use in those communities. Now we talked a lot already about communities. There's a lot you can do in those communities. We talked about posts, right? So we can create, first of all, before we talk about posts, there's communities. You can create any type of communities based on, it could be based on projects, could be based on products, could be based on team members, on groups of users, engineers, manufacturers, whatever. So you can create your communities the way you want them for the people you want in them too. In those communities, you're gonna have posts. Again, you wanna share information about different things. Again, typically you would send an email to all your team members. Who actually reads the email, deletes the email, how do you track that? Well, in community, everything is captured. So it always stays there and it's searchable as well. So if you want to search for a post, someone posted something about, a problem, well, you can search it and it's going to be there in the, for all the time that it has to. So everything is captured and stays there. We talked about wiki. So by definition, the feed in a community is structured simply by time and date, right? The newer activity is on top, the older is on the bottom. But we also, in engineering especially, we always like to have some structured information, standard of practice, SOPs, getting started guides, knowledge-based information. So we can gather that in a wiki, and that wiki can actually be updated in rev control. So you can actually see the history of changes in the wiki, new sections or edited content. You can see that in a wiki, a really way to structure information compared to the rest of the community, which is simply, what's newer is on top. Then we talked about questions. You simply want to ask questions and get feedback from all the members of the community. And if there's many people answering the question, then you can actually validate which one is the best answer for that question. We talked about ideas, posts. You can create new ideas from scratch, but you can also take current posts or questions and convert them into ideas. We saw the example here where one of the users said, hey, I got this feeling that this part, we're having problems with this part. It was just a question with the cylinder guard, and then we turned it into a new idea and say, hey, why don't we try to do something different and put some cutouts? So we can turn these ideas, and all of the ideas get into that funnel where we can actually decide, the community owner can decide if they want to move it into a concept or move it into a mature state. But really it's just ideas. We're not necessarily moving files or revisioning or approving. It's just talking about ideas of new designs, better designs, different way of doing things. And something I did mention, it's in there too, but you can also, in communities, there's messaging embedded into communities. So it could be chat messaging. So basically you can replace Skype. Basically with the communities, it's all embedded. We can also do audio calls and video calls directly from the platform, with the big difference that everything is web-based. There's no software to install. You just need a web browser and you can do chat messaging, instant messaging, Skype, well, not Skype, but video calls and audio calls. So everything in those swim communities, it gathers a lot of different aspects. And again, remember how many emails just in that community with what I have 4 different posts, but on each of those posts, different members kind of replied and commented. I got 2 different questions. I got 2 different ideas. All of those peoples in my community can go in and comment, which typically would have resolved in just tons of emails. I haven't used one single email to communicate all this information to my team and ask for questions and things like that. So really the beauty of communities is just, you don't have to deal with emails, right? It's, you share information without using emails. And also, Joelle mentioned it earlier, meetings. Why do I need to hold a meeting to share information when I can just put it in a post and say, hey, results for our simulation validation, you just put it into a post. You don't have to create a meeting for that. And even if, these days, everyone working from home, well, how do you create meetings? It's really hard to do that. In communities, everyone's, up to speed on what's going on. Now, the 2 last tools, I'm going to talk about them together because, it's hard to talk about them apart. But we have 3D Drive, which is on secure storing of files and sharing of files, and then 3D Play, which is a universal viewer to view all these files. So again, I'm going to go back to my dashboard, create a new tab for 3D Drive and 3D Play, and then actually I'm going to be doing a little bit of SolidWorks. I'm going to do a couple things inside of SolidWorks, save that to 3D Drive, and post a couple comments on the community, put a couple posts on the community. So let's go ahead and swing back into my dashboard. I'm going to create a new tab. And in this tab, I'm going to drop 3D Drive right over here. And I mean, that's a personal preference, but I really like to have 3D Drive and 3D Play, both of these apps in the same tab, simply because it just becomes really easy to go from one to the other. So for example, I can navigate into my folder here where I have my SolidWorks files. Now you'll notice that 3D Drive, the easiest way to explain it is a online cloud storage that syncs with local data, pretty much like Google Drive, Dropbox, with the difference that this is actually CAD aware. It understands CAD data. So for example, I could take this boom here and move it over here, and because it understands CAD data, this can actually be loaded in my 3D Play app, so I can view this this boom right inside. So that's a good assembly. So it takes a couple seconds to load, but this is 3D CAD data, right? So I can go ahead, I got my tools. You probably have seen that last week if you were on my webinar. You can move files apart. You can, explode them just to see how everything's created. You can even go ahead and take, snapshots or comments on this. So really a great way to view all of these components. I can even, preview PDF files. I can preview pretty much anything I want over here. Now, what I want to do is actually to do the change that I was asked to do, is to change the guard, which is this guard here. So I want to change this guard for a new model that has holes in it. So you see this guard doesn't have holes, and that's kind of one of the problems. Rocks get stuck in there and it can cause some breakdowns. So I want to add this, a new design to my 3D drive. Now, there's a couple of ways to do that. You can simply go here and add content and browse to your folder. Actually, what I'm going to do is actually go to my desktop, and you'll notice here that 3D Drive also synchronize a folder on my computer. So here I got the same resume project with the same files. So I'm gonna go into my new guard prototype. This file currently is on my desktop. I simply put it into my 3D Drive, and now it's going to sync automatically to my cloud. Before I actually finish this off, I'm gonna go inside of SolidWorks to do the change. Inside of SolidWorks, I got the integration where I can actually see my 3D drive directly from here. So I'm going to navigate to my Resumen project, which is here, and I'm going to open up the boom assembly inside of SolidWorks. You just do a drag and drop. So this is going to open up the boom, this assembly of my bolter. As it's opening up, takes a couple seconds. Now it's opened up inside of SolidWorks. So I want to do a couple things. So we talked about the load of this cylinder on this knuckle kit. So I want to open up the knuckle kit. I want to run some simulation and maybe save a little bit of data to that. I've actually taken steps ahead of time. So just to save some time, I've actually already run a simulation. We can see the results here of my loads. You can see the arrows is actually the loads pointing towards the part. Let me hide that. I can animate it. So I simply use a SolidWorks simulation to do that, right? So we can see how it deforms. Now, one of my concerns is the factor of safety. When I look at this knuckle kit, I realize that there seems to be a stress concentration right over here, and my factor of safety is only 1.7, and I'm not really comfortable with that. So I want to share that with the team. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to save this as an image. Say I want to save as a JPEG, and I'm going to save it directly in my 3D drive folder. And I'm actually going to get back to that a little bit later and create a post about it. Before we do that, let me just close this and go back to my main assembly and swap out this guard. So, here I'm just simply working inside of SolidWorks like I would normally do. I want to replace this component with the new part I've put in my folder here, which is a part, not a assembly. So that's my new guard with holes. I'm going to say open to that, click OK, swapped out. You see the new one, click OK to confirm. And basically, I've done this change of this assembly. Now I'm ready to kind of wrap things up inside of SolidWorks. So I'm going to simply save this and close SolidWorks. Now what's happening in the background as well is that now my 3D drive is syncing all the data back to the cloud drive, right? Because SolidWorks files were stored locally, but as it changed, now everything is syncing back to my 3D drive on the cloud. And as you can see now, it takes a couple seconds to sync everything. This is going to be obviously dependent on your connection. And now I see that everything is synced. I got the little green check mark. So what that means is that if I go back to my dashboard and I update this dashboard, you'll notice that inside, if I load, that's the old guard, but if I load the boom and preview the new boom, or the updated boom, I should say, give it a couple seconds, you'll notice that actually we can see clearly there's the new guard updated in the boom. And now I want to share this information with the rest of my team. I want to make sure that they know there's a new guard and they should update their design. So I'm going to go ahead, put a comment, simply circle it to make sure that everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm going to say new guard design and simply put it over here and validate. And from here, because everything is connected, that's the beauty of 3DEXPERIENCE platform, is that I can go ahead and say, hey, I want to share this image back on my community. So it's taking a snapshot and then asking me, okay, what do you want to do? I want to create a new post. I want to create this post on my Resumen bolter community. I'm gonna say cylinder guard. So I'm doing this live, so excuse the typos. New design for guard, please, up, 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 date, new models or new assemblies. Let's put it like this. And then I'm going to say publish to that. So now this image is actually, I started from a 3D model, I added annotation, and then I captured this image. And what's going to happen if I go back to my community and I'm going to simply refresh the page, and you see I've put in a new post with my image just like that. So I didn't even have to do a screenshot of it. It was done automatically from my 3D Play app. Now, if I want to create a new post from scratch, very easy. You simply go over here, decide what you want to create. It could be an idea, a question, a wiki page. This is simply going to be a new post, and say about potential problem in new knuckle kit. And I'm going to start writing and say, hey, I'm concerned about this. I'm concerned we should do further testing. And sorry, I'm not a fast typer. So, and from here, I want to put the image. Well, I know the image is in my 3D Drive folder. So let's go back to my 3D Drive where I saved it in my results folder. Here you can see the image. Simply drag and drop this into my post. This gets added to the post. It's uploading the media, the image itself. There we go. And I say simply publish. And now going back to the community, my post is there, right? So very quickly, that's kind of the beauty with 3D Drive and 3D Play and all of these tools within the 3D Experience platform. Everything is embedded. So right inside the dashboard, I can go into 3D Drive, I can view a file, I can annotate, put some comments, capture a snapshot without really capturing a snapshot. I'm just putting an image back into a post on the community. So very, very quickly, you can start populating those posts and sharing information into communities directly from 3D Play and even from 3D Drive with and adding comments. So as we go, Joel might come in and say, hey, we've had this issue before, put a comment in, or someone else might want to take this further and do some further simulation. All the information is in the community, and that is really what's great about it. So again, we saw 3D Drive, 3D Play. These are, again, some of the apps available in the role Collaborative Business Innovator. So what's neat about 3D Drive, I didn't really mention it here, but you can actually aggregate Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive. So if you search something, it can actually search in all of those other drives. So I'm also guilty of not simply using 3D Drive. I also have Google Drive. I also have Dropbox, but they're all embedded in 3D Drive. So if I search something, it searches all these drives together. And 3D Play, which is really awesome, the ability to view and mark up 3D files without having to install anything on the computer. I could do that. Everything you've seen, except for when I was inside of Solidworks, that's definitely a desktop application. But everything you saw in 3DEXPERIENCE in my dashboard, there is not a single software to install. It runs completely on the browser. Chrome, Firefox, Safari, if you're using an iOS, it's all in there. So if I do a quick recap, we talked about dashboard, how you can customize your dashboard to have all the information you want to see in your dashboard. Something I forgot to mention is that, when I put those graphics earlier on, I could actually publish those graphics to my swim community. So maybe the graphics, only me as a manager, I'm interested to see that, but I want to share maybe one information to my teams. I could have taken one of those graphics and share it to a post. swim communities. I mean, think about the emails and how you can, better collaborate with your team without having to use emails. Everyone gets buried in emails. Let's not kid ourselves. Communities are great just to share information without having to rely on emails. And then 3D Drive, just to store data on the cloud. It's just storage. It's not controlling data that much, but then you can decide who you share it with, right? So everything that we see here is only available to me until I decide to share it with someone else. It's the same thing for the dashboards, the communities, 3D Drive. So for example, I shared the community with Joelle, but Joelle is not a CAD designer. She's not using Solidworks. I didn't share the 3D Drive with my Solidworks models. I don't really need to. I could if I wanted to. So I could do that, but I could also just share it so she can read them and can't change anything, right? So there's also levels of sharing that's part of that. And then 3D Play, the ability to just view anything, 3D model, CAD file, images, videos. We also support PDF files. So really it's that one place where you can view all these tools. So on that, if you want to have a bit more information, you can simply browse to the website, solidworks.com/product/collaborative business innovator. If you don't have the time to screenshot the link, let me know. I'll put my email at the end so you can communicate with me. But I'll just let Joelle wrap up things quickly while actually I see a couple questions. I'll look at those.
All right, while you look at those, great, thanks, and for great information, Michel, as always. Just want to bring back to some of the questions or challenges I asked all of you at the beginning. One was to think of all the tools use or would need to be able to do all the things that Michel showed, because yes, we were not going to hide that these are possible with other types of tools. The idea is, do they talk to each other? Do they connect with each other? And do they have your interest of your company in design, 3D design, as the core of it at the end of the day, to be able to manage files that are intelligently managed, and then how to work with that. I asked you to think about emails and meetings that you can minimize. It's a completely different way of working than what we're used to, and it takes time to realize everything that can possibly be changed and improved and streamlined as you go. When Michel and I came back from 3D Experience World in Nashville in February, a lot of this information was presented. We got to see companies who use SolidWorks, who had added to it the capabilities of 3D Experience Works and how that had worked for them. We saw companies present who had done everything A to Z in the platform, not having SolidWorks. So that brought the idea to another level. And those are tools and capabilities or apps and roles that we're going to show you in further webinars as we continue this. But we also talk to customers on a regular basis who have issues, and some of them are the issue of finding staff directly in their local area, and we see this a lot. I can't find anybody. So they're come to the realization to a point where they have to look elsewhere. Not only that, but there are companies who are just built out of people who are a little all over the place these days. So there's all sorts of scenarios. But the concern is always, how are we going to work together? How are we going to collaborate together? How are we going to communicate with each other and feel like we're part of the company as though we were in the same office? And I think that the platform is a great way to be able to do that and face those challenges. We met with a customer at World as well who was telling us that he had an idea and he had tried 3 times to schedule a meeting, 3 times to schedule a meeting with the right people to just present this idea, this project that he had, and just still hadn't been able to. So imagine if he could have just posted it on the platform and started the ball rolling. And he wouldn't have had days, and actually in this case it was weeks that had gone by with nothing happening on this idea and nothing moving forward. So it's about streamlining, it's about performance, it's about connectivity, it's about all this. Now, in no way when we had planned this series could we have foreseen that we'd be in a completely new scenario today because of the pandemic, of actually being disconnected from our offices and working from home. So for Michelle and I, this is our normal, working from home, but most of the time we're traveling and we're seeing customers, so we're actually physically together doing that and meeting with our customers and our resellers and talking to them. So that part of it is new for us, but we know that you're facing completely new realities today and having to find ways to connect and to work. And as this will change and we will get through this pandemic, it will cause people to pause, think, and actually review how they do business today and moving forward, so that you are more connected and that the risks are mitigated moving forward. So not is it just a good idea for today, but it's a good idea for tomorrow. So Michelle, did you want to get through one or two questions? So we're already running out of time.
There's a couple of good questions. So Tyler asked about, does 3D Drive application create a local cache on your PC? Yes, if you install the desktop application. Very familiar to if you're using Google Drive, Dropbox, or OneDrive, you can install the local desktop app, and that will sync the folder to your cloud folder. So yes, if you do install the app on the desktop, it will sync. You will see that. So I actually, maybe the question came in actually before I showed it, but yes, it does that. Another good question about security and encryption. So if that's a concern, and I can obviously understand it is a concern. I mean, we're using financial level encryption in the system, and those norms are normalized. There's actually ISO norms or OSWAP. There's a couple norms that kind of dictates the encryption level. So Rick, good question. If you want to learn more, let me know. I got some papers here that kind of explains all the security protocols built into the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, but a really good question. And maybe the last question I'm going to ask, actually the last question, does PDMWorks integrates with 3DEXPERIENCE, and are there any possible conflicts? So really what we talked about today is just the ability to collaborate. Whether you have PDM or not isn't really a factor here. If you want to actually do data management on the cloud, that's a different thing. We do have tools to do that, which actually is going to be part of our next webinar on not next Friday, the Friday after that. But even though you're using PDM today, ask yourself, how do you communicate all the information that I've done today? Pretty much everything I've done today could have been in a PDM environment. I can still create posts, ask questions, create my own communities. You would probably not use 3D Drive the same way. You would likely use 3D Drive for but files that are not normally in your PDM vault. Imagine you want to share a document with a customer. The customer doesn't have access to your vault, but you could put it in a 3D Drive and share that using a link to your customer, similar to how you use maybe Google Drive or Dropbox, right? So there's other methods of doing it. 3D Drive is not, it's a way to store files. It's not controlling files, other than sharing with people. It's not like data management, but we do have tools to do data management. We're going to talk about that in 2 weeks from now.
All right. So great information, great questions from everyone. If there were more, please post them, send them to us, whatever you want to do. If you want to see this and have a discussion on how this could work for you personally, we'd be happy to have that with you. Don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know that you'd like to have this. And again, in this new age of working from home for now, we wish you the best patience in getting through this, and most importantly, health for you and your family. And we hope to see you on our next webinar, which again will share on data management for Solidworks users, and the week after that will be data management or in general data access for those who are not Solidworks users. And we will keep going because there are a lot of toppings for that pizza to show you, a lot of apps, a lot of things. So we're not done. This is just going to get going. And again, we're not looking to replace your SolidWorks if that's what you're using. We're looking to add and enhance how you work. And hopefully you got some of that information today. Have a great day, everyone.
Because Joelle talked about pizza, I'm really hungry right now.
They're really hungry now. All right. Have a great lunch, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.